Here's a thought that might bother you a little, and that's intentional. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life don't come from strength, intelligence, or perfect timing. They come from compassion applied in moments where logic says, "Don't bother." That sounds backward, almost irresponsible, doesn't it? After all, we're taught to invest where there's guarantee, to protect our energy, to avoid what looks like loss. And yet, over and over again, life seems to reward the people who choose differently. Most of us have been trained to admire success stories only after they're polished. We celebrate outcomes, not beginnings. We applaud strength, not fragility. But what if the real miracle doesn't happen at the finish line? What if it happens in the quiet moment when someone decides to care, before there's proof it will be worth it? This story isn't about a hero with resources. It's about a man with limits, a tired body, a small income, a routine that looks painfully ordinary. And that's precisely why it matters. Because if transformation only belonged to exceptional people, most of us would tune out immediately. But deep down, we know that's not true. Deep down, we sense that the smallest choices, the ones nobody applauds, carry disproportionate weight. Here's the uncomfortable paradox. What the world calls waste is often just potential that requires patience. And patience, in a culture obsessed with speed, feels almost rebellious. We scroll fast, we judge fast, we discard fast. So when someone stops, looks twice, and chooses to invest care instead of efficiency, it disrupts our assumptions. It forces a question we don't like to ask. What have I abandoned too quickly? As you listen to this story, you might recognize pieces of yourself in it. Maybe you've been told your effort wouldn't pay off. Maybe your compassion was mistaken for weakness. Maybe you're carrying responsibility without recognition, wondering if it even matters. This isn't just a story to consume, it's a mirror to look into. And here's the promise. If you stay with this story, you won't just witness a transformation. You'll understand why it happens. You'll see how dignity grows quietly, how consistency compounds, and how meaning often hides inside the very situations others rush to eliminate. So before we go any further, do 3 simple things. If stories like this speak to you, stories that mix life, faith, and hard-earned wisdom, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming. Like this video, because it helps this message reach people who may need it more than they realize. And share it with someone who's been carrying more than they show. Sometimes, the right story arrives exactly when someone is close to giving up. Now, let's begin. Slowly, honestly, and with open eyes. Every morning, before the town fully wakes up, Anselmo is already moving, not rushing, not complaining, just moving. There's a quiet dignity in the way he prepares himself, adjusting the strap of his worn bag, checking the glass bottles of milk one by one, and wheeling out his old bicycle as if it were a trusted companion rather than a piece of metal held together by stubbornness and hope. That bicycle isn't fast, and it surely isn't pretty, but it knows the roads by heart. Every crack in the pavement, every shortcut between houses, every slope that demands a little more breath, it's all familiar. And familiarity, when life is simple, becomes a form of comfort. As he rides through the village, Anselmo exchanges small words with familiar faces, nothing grand, nothing dramatic. A nod here, a good morning there. With Doña Carmen, though, the conversations linger a bit longer. She always asks about his sister. He always answers with honesty mixed with restraint. She had a rough night, he might say, or today is a better day. He doesn't dramatize her illness, but he doesn't hide it either. There's wisdom in that balance, sharing enough to be real, but not so much that pain becomes the center of everything. People who live with long-term hardship learn that skill quietly. The sister never appears on screen, so to speak, but her presence is constant. She exists in the pauses between Anselmo's words, in the way he counts his coins twice before buying bread, in the decision to walk instead of ride when the bicycle chain slips again. She represents responsibility without applause. Many people watching recognize this immediately. They too have someone they carry in their thoughts while the world sees only the surface of their routine. And then there's the bicycle itself, more than transportation really. It becomes a symbol of steady effort. Not the kind of effort that makes headlines, but the kind that accumulates quietly over time. Pedal after pedal, day after day. It teaches an important lesson without ever saying it out loud. Progress doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it just feels like repetition. If someone listening wanted to apply this idea to their own life, it could be as simple as showing up consistently. Reading 10 pages a day instead of waiting for motivation, saving a small amount weekly instead of dreaming about a sudden breakthrough, or checking on someone they love even when nothing seems to change. From a mentor's perspective, this is where many stories hide their true power. Extraordinary transformations rarely begin with dramatic events. They start in ordinary mornings, quiet responsibilities, and small choices made when no one is watching. Anselmo doesn't yet know it, but his daily routine is already shaping his character for something bigger. Life, after all, has a way of testing people with repetition before trusting them with change. And just as this rhythm feels established, something fragile is about to interrupt it. Something that will challenge how the world defines value altogether. It happens on a day that looks exactly like all the others. Same dust in the air, same distant sounds of animals, same routine unfolding without warning. And that's often how life introduces turning points, not with thunder, but with silence. Anselmo notices it almost by accident, a small movement near the barn, something out of place. When he looks closer, there it is, a newborn calf lying on the ground, fragile to the point of looking unfinished, as if life itself had hesitated halfway through the design. The calf trembles, not dramatically, not loudly, just enough to make its weakness undeniable. Its legs refuse to obey, folding beneath a body that doesn't yet know how to carry itself. This is not the kind of scene people gather around with hope. It's the kind they avoid with practicality, the kind that invites quick decisions, clean solutions, and emotional distance. And sure enough, the words arrive fast and sharp, cutting through the air with the certainty of authority. It's no use. Sacrifice it. No use. Few phrases are heavier than that. Not because they're cruel on the surface, but because they pretend to be logical. Useful versus useless. Profitable versus waste. Strong versus weak. The calf is labeled with a single word that seals its fate: waste. And once something is defined that way, people feel strangely relieved. They no longer have to feel responsible. The label does the emotional work for them. From a wiser lens, this moment is never really about the animal. The calf becomes a mirror, reflecting everything society is quick to abandon. The fragile, the slow starter, the thing that doesn't promise immediate return. Anyone listening who has ever been told, directly or indirectly, that they weren't worth the effort, feels this scene deeply. Maybe it happened at work, when potential was dismissed because results weren't instant. Maybe in school, when learning at a different pace was mistaken for lack of intelligence, or even within family, where vulnerability was seen as inconvenience. Anselmo doesn't speak right away. That pause matters. It's the pause where conscience wrestles with common sense. Most people have learned to silence that pause quickly. They tell themselves, that's just how things are. But mentors know this. Growth begins in the moments we refuse to rush past discomfort. Anselmo's eyes move from the calf to the men around him and back again. He sees not just what is, but what could be. And that ability to imagine potential before proof, has always separated builders from spectators. For those watching, this is a quiet invitation to reflect. What have you labeled as not worth it too quickly? A habit you abandoned because progress was slow? A relationship you stopped nurturing because it didn't give back immediately? Even personal growth works this way. Reading a few pages a day, learning a skill awkwardly at first, investing time before results appear. None of it feels efficient in the short term, yet that's exactly where transformation hides. The calf remains on the ground, trembling, its future hanging in the air. The decision hasn't been made yet, not fully, but the weight of the word waste lingers, daring Anselmo to either accept the world's verdict or quietly challenge it. And as that tension builds, the next moment will test not just compassion, but courage. When Anselmo finally speaks, his voice doesn't rise, it doesn't challenge, it doesn't demand. That, in itself, is what makes the moment uncomfortable. He simply asks if he can take care of the calf. No speeches, no moral argument. Just a request that feels almost out of place in a world that has already decided the outcome. Silence follows for a brief second, long enough to expose how fragile the consensus really was. Then the laughter comes. It starts small, a few chuckles exchanged between workers who know better than to step out of line. Laughter in these moments isn't joy, it's armor. It protects people from having to think too deeply about what they're participating in. Someone mutters a joke. Another shakes his head. The message is clear. Compassion here is entertainment, not virtue. And standing at the center of it all is Don Fernando, watching with the detached curiosity of someone who believes reality is on his side. Invest in something that's worth nothing, he says, his tone calm, almost amused. The irony is sharp. He uses the language of business to mock an act of humanity. In his world, investment requires guarantees. Returns must be measurable. Time must justify itself. The calf, weak and trembling, offers none of that. And by extension, Anselmo's request becomes a challenge to the unspoken rules everyone else has agreed to follow. Then comes the cruel generosity. Don Fernando doesn't refuse outright. He gives the calf to Anselmo as a gift, not out of kindness, but as a lesson, a way to demonstrate what happens when emotion overrides logic. The gesture is humiliating precisely because it pretends to be benevolent. Anyone who has ever been helped in a way that felt like a reminder of their place understands this instantly. It's the kind of favor that says, "See, this is what you deserve." For the viewer, this scene stirs a familiar discomfort, second-hand shame, the tightening in the chest that comes from watching someone be laughed at for doing what feels right. It awakens memories of moments when standing up for something, integrity, empathy, a belief, led not to praise, but to ridicule. Those are the moments that teach many people to stay quiet next time. From a mentor's standpoint, humiliation is one of life's sharpest filters. It separates those who act based on approval from those who act based on conviction. Anselmo could laugh along. He could step back, say it was just an idea, retreat to safety. Most people would, and that doesn't make them weak, it makes them human. But growth often demands a different response, the willingness to be misunderstood without becoming bitter. This is also where many viewers unknowingly confront a question of their own. How many times have they allowed mockery to decide their choices? How many compassionate instincts were abandoned because someone rolled their eyes, made a joke, or labeled them naive? The world rarely punishes cruelty immediately, but it tests kindness relentlessly. As Anselmo accepts the gift, there is no victory in his posture, no satisfaction, just quiet resolve. The laughter fades, but its echo stays with him, and that echo will matter. Because the real cost of compassion isn't the work, it's carrying doubt without letting it change who you are. And now, with a trembling calf and a bruised sense of dignity, Anselmo is about to discover what that cost truly looks like in daily life. The decision doesn't end when Anselmo accepts the calf. In many ways, that's when it truly begins. Choosing compassion in public is one thing. Sustaining it in private is something else entirely. The first image that lingers is almost cinematic in its simplicity. Anselmo balancing the weak calf on his bicycle, moving slowly so it doesn't fall, adjusting his posture every few meters. Each pedal stroke feels heavier than the last. Not just because of the weight, but because of what it represents. There's no applause on that road, only dust, uneven ground, and the quiet awareness that turning back would be easier. At home, there is no proper shelter waiting, so he improvises. Old wood becomes walls. A torn tarp turns into a roof. Straw is spread carefully, layer by layer, as if attention alone could make it warmer. He warms the milk with patience, testing the temperature not with tools, but with instinct. The bottle is adapted awkwardly, imperfectly. Nothing about this process looks efficient, and that's the point. Real care rarely fits into clean systems. Night comes, and with it, cold. Anselmo wakes up repeatedly, listening for sounds that might signal danger. He learns the rhythm of the calf's breathing, the way parents learn their child's sleep patterns. His own rest becomes shallow. Mornings arrive faster. He eats less, not as a dramatic sacrifice, but as a quiet trade-off. Hunger becomes familiar, manageable. What matters is that the calf eats. This is where love shows its true shape. Not in big gestures, but in consistent inconvenience. For anyone watching, this sequence resonates deeply. Many recognize this pattern from their own lives, waking earlier to care for someone else, giving up comfort for responsibility, spending time, energy, or money on something that doesn't immediately pay back. Whether it's raising a child, supporting a sick relative, or building a dream that hasn't yet produced results, the dynamic is the same. Love always rearranges priorities. From a practical perspective, there's a lesson here that extends beyond emotion. Growth, whether personal, financial, or spiritual, demands structure. Anselmo doesn't just hope the calf survives. He builds routines around that hope. Feeding times, checks, adjustments. Viewers can apply this idea directly. If someone wants to improve their health, vague intentions won't work. Scheduling walks, choosing specific meals, and tracking progress will. If someone wants to grow professionally, reading one solid book a month, titles like Atomic Habits or The Richest Man in Babylon, can quietly compound into transformation. The key idea isn't perfection, it's persistence. Anselmo doesn't know if the calf will live. He doesn't calculate probabilities. He simply commits. And commitment has a way of changing outcomes over time, even when logic says otherwise. Each early morning, each colder night, each skipped comfort becomes a deposit into something unseen. Yet sacrifice has a way of isolating people. The more Anselmo gives, the less others understand. His life begins to look smaller from the outside, even as something inside him grows stronger. And that growing gap between inner conviction and external validation sets the stage for a new kind of challenge. One that doesn't come from exhaustion, but from doubt planted by those closest to him. Sacrifice is heavy on its own, but it becomes heavier when it starts echoing back at you through other people's voices. For Anselmo, that echo comes in the form of Ramon, not an enemy, not a villain, just a friend, the kind that believes he's being helpful by being realistic. Ramon watches the routine unfold, the early mornings, the tired eyes, the thin meals, and finally says what many people think but hesitate to voice: "You're crazy." He doesn't say it with cruelty, he says it with concern, which somehow makes it harder to ignore. Then comes the second sentence, the one that sticks, that won't give you anything back. It's a sentence that sounds logical, even caring, but carries a quiet poison. It frames value only in terms of return. Time in, reward out, Effort in, benefit out. And when life is hard, that mindset feels comforting. It offers a way to measure suffering, to justify quitting when the numbers don't add up. Anselmo doesn't argue much. He listens, and that's important. Doubt rarely enters shouting. It enters through reasonable conversations, through people we trust, through voices that mirror our own secret fears. Late at night, when exhaustion lowers defenses, Ramon's words replay in Anselmo's mind. What if he's right? What if all this effort ends in loss? What if compassion turns out to be just another luxury for people who can afford failure? This is the moment many stories quietly break, not through dramatic collapse, but through slow retreat. People don't abandon their values all at once. They soften them. They start skipping the extra step. They justify doing a little less. From a mentor's view, this stage is universal. Anyone who has ever tried to do something meaningful has faced it. Start a business, and someone will ask why you didn't choose something safer. Commit to personal growth, and someone will joke that you're trying too hard. Choose kindness when bitterness is easier, and you'll be told you're naive. For the viewer, this is where identification deepens. How many times has compassion been labeled weakness? How often has patience been mistaken for passivity? The pressure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a raised eyebrow, a sigh, a well-meaning warning. And over time, these small signals can erode resolve if left unexamined. There's a practical insight hidden here. Doubt should be evaluated, not obeyed. Wise people learn to separate advice from projection. Ramon's fear is understandable, but it's his fear, shaped by his experiences. Viewers can apply this by asking simple questions when doubt arises. Is this advice based on evidence or fear? Does it align with who I want to become? Would I regret stopping more than continuing? Writing these questions down, even journaling for 5 minutes a night, can bring surprising clarity. Anselmo feels the weight of the decision more than ever now. The calf is still fragile. The work is ongoing, and the voices around him grow louder as his path grows lonelier. Yet something subtle shifts inside him. The doubt doesn't disappear, but it no longer commands him. And that inner resistance, that quiet refusal to let fear decide, prepares him for an unexpected intervention, one that doesn't come from effort, but from recognition. Some turning points don't arrive with noise, they arrive with presence. Doña Rosario enters the story without urgency, without speeches, without the need to announce herself. She simply observes, and that alone already sets her apart. While others rush to judge, label, and dismiss, she watches. There's wisdom in that restraint. People who have lived long enough learn that reality reveals itself more clearly when given time. She notices the details others ignore, the way Anselmo handles the calf, not roughly, not sentimentally, but attentively. The improvised shelter that speaks of care rather than charity. The consistency. That's what stands out. Anyone can feel pity once. Very few can sustain responsibility. From a mentor's perspective, consistency is the loudest form of character. You don't need to announce values when your actions repeat them daily. When Doña Rosario finally speaks, her words are simple, but they land with precision. You see potential where others only see loss. It's not a sermon, it's an observation. And that's why it carries weight. She doesn't tell Anselmo what to do. She names what he already is. That distinction matters deeply. People don't grow because they're instructed. They grow because they're recognized. For the viewer, this moment touches a quiet longing. Most people don't need more advice. They need someone to notice, someone to say, I see what you're doing. Recognition, when genuine, restores energy faster than rest. It reframes sacrifice as purpose. Suddenly, the long nights and quiet doubts feel less isolating. Doña Rosario's recognition doesn't stop at words. Wisdom moves toward action. She opens doors, not dramatically, but practically. A small piece of land, access to pasture, a stable, nothing extravagant, just enough structure to support what Anselmo has already proven he can sustain. This is an important lesson often missed. Opportunity usually meets preparation halfway. It rarely arrives to rescue, it arrives to reinforce. For those watching, this has immediate real-world application. Many people wait for opportunity before acting responsibly. The story flips that order. Act responsibly first. Build something small with care. Then, when opportunity appears, through a mentor, a connection, a chance, you're ready. Practically speaking, this could mean building skills quietly before asking for promotion, creating value consistently before launching a business, or volunteering reliably before expecting trust. Doña Rosario functions as a moral anchor in the narrative. She gives language to what the story has been showing all along. By validating Anselmo, she also challenges the unspoken hierarchy that defined worth by utility alone. Her presence proves something subtle but powerful. The world does notice integrity, even if it takes time. As she steps back into the background, the shift she triggered remains. The path ahead is suddenly wider, not easier, but clearer. And with new ground beneath his feet and quiet confidence in his heart, Anselmo is about to discover that growth, once nurtured, accelerates faster than anyone expects. Growth rarely announces itself all at once. It arrives quietly, almost shyly, as if testing whether it's truly welcome. At first, the calf simply stands a little longer, then it eats with more confidence. Then one day, without ceremony, it walks. Anselmo notices these changes the way people notice sunrise, not because it's sudden, but because the darkness is no longer there, and in that steady progress, something inside him shifts too. Naming the calf is not a trivial act. He calls it milagro, not out of superstition, but recognition. A miracle isn't always a violation of logic. Sometimes it's the result of patience refusing to give up. By naming it, Anselmo acknowledges that what once looked like a burden has become a responsibility worth honoring. Names create bonds. They turn effort into relationship. As Milagro grows stronger, practical changes follow. The milk production improves. Anselmo reinvests carefully, never recklessly. He buys another cow, then another, always within his limits. This isn't overnight success, it's disciplined expansion, the kind that doesn't collapse under its own weight. From a mentor's standpoint, this is one of the most overlooked lessons in prosperity. Sustainable growth beats impressive growth every time. Viewers who pay attention recognize this pattern instantly. It mirrors real life more accurately than flashy success stories ever could. When someone starts saving consistently, the account doesn't explode, it stabilizes first. When someone commits to fitness, the mirror changes slowly before it changes noticeably. When someone builds a business, the early phase is about survival, not scale. Anselmo models this restraint intuitively. Milagro's physical transformation becomes impossible to ignore. The once trembling calf now carries weight with confidence. Muscles form. The animal's presence commands respect. People begin to talk, not with mockery this time, but curiosity. And that shift in tone reveals something important about human nature. Many people don't doubt goodness, they doubt outcomes. When results appear, their beliefs adjust. But here's the deeper layer. As the animal grows, Anselmo's identity grows with it. He no longer sees himself merely as someone who endures. He becomes someone who builds. Responsibility reshapes self-perception. This is critical. Many people underestimate how much identity follows action. You don't wait to feel capable before acting. You act, and capability catches up. There's a subtle lesson for the audience here. If someone wants to change how they see themselves, the fastest path isn't affirmation, it's alignment. Take actions that reflect the person you want to become. Read what that person would read. Work how that person would work. Care the way that person would care. Over time, the internal narrative adjusts. Milagro becomes a reference point, a living reminder that what was discarded can become central. And as others begin to recognize the value that once went unseen, a quiet reversal takes place. The story's balance shifts. The same eyes that dismissed now observe with interest, and soon, someone from the past, someone who once defined value very differently, will return, carrying questions he never thought he'd ask. When Don Fernando returns, he doesn't announce himself as someone seeking forgiveness. He arrives as a man, surprised by reality, the kind of surprise that unsettles certainty. His posture is different now, not smaller, not defeated, but quieter. Success has a way of humbling people when it comes from directions they never respected. He stands there observing what once seemed impossible, measuring not just the animal, but the path that led to it. Milagro is no longer fragile. That much is obvious. Strength shows without explanation, the kind of strength that doesn't need defending. Don Fernando notices the efficiency of the operation, the care in the process, the calm order of things. He asks questions, not aggressively, not arrogantly, but with genuine curiosity. This alone signals a shift. People who are used to being right don't ask questions easily. When they do, it means something inside them has already changed. There is no apology scene, no dramatic speech, and that restraint matters. This story doesn't reward humiliation with humiliation. Instead, it presents a reconciliation shaped by maturity. Don Fernando expresses interest in buying descendants, in learning what Anselmo did differently. It's subtle, but profound. The man who once mocked the idea of investing in nothing now wants to invest in the very outcome of that compassion. From a mentor's lens, this moment teaches a rare lesson. Vindication doesn't always arrive as revenge. Sometimes it arrives as reversal. The tables turn quietly. The same voice that dismissed now seeks understanding. And the greatest power Anselmo holds here is not leverage, but restraint. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't reopen wounds. He simply speaks truthfully. This is where inner growth becomes visible. Anselmo has nothing to prove anymore. His confidence is rooted in experience, not approval. Many viewers can learn from this response. When life finally validates your choices, the temptation is to make others feel what you once felt. But real maturity chooses peace over performance. It understands that being right is less important than being whole. There's also a practical insight hidden beneath the emotional exchange. Respect often follows results, not intentions. This doesn't mean intentions don't matter, but it explains why persistence is crucial. If someone listening has ever felt overlooked or underestimated, this moment offers perspective. Focus on building something solid. Let the work speak. Conversations will change on their own. As Don Fernando leaves, there's no clear winner or loser, only clarity. Two men stand on different sides of the same truth now. Value isn't always obvious at the beginning, and the quiet acknowledgement of that truth closes one chapter while opening another, because the story doesn't end with recognition from others. It continues with what that recognition makes possible next, how wisdom, once earned, begins to ripple outward. And that ripple, subtle but powerful, is what ultimately transforms a personal victory into a lasting legacy. Now the story rests in your hands, not as entertainment, not as inspiration alone, but as a quiet challenge. Because stories like this don't end when the video ends. They end when the listener decides whether it was just a nice narrative or a mirror calling for movement. Think about it honestly. How many times have you walked away from something fragile because it didn't look promising enough? A project that seemed too small, a person who needed patience. A version of yourself that was still learning, still shaky, still unfinished. The world teaches us to abandon early, to optimize quickly, to protect ourselves from wasting effort. But this story whispers a different truth, one that only experience confirms. What you nurture with consistency often returns multiplied. Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. What in your life feels like a calf on the ground right now? Something weak, something inconvenient, something that doesn't yet justify the investment. Is it your health, your character, a relationship you've neglected, or a dream you quietly buried because someone laughed, doubted, or labeled it unrealistic? Growth rarely announces itself with certainty. It asks for faith in action. Applying this story doesn't require dramatic gestures. It requires alignment. Choose one small area where you will act with care instead of calculation. If it's personal growth, commit to a simple structure, 10 minutes of reading a day, starting with books that build mindset and discipline like Think and Grow Rich or Man's Search for Meaning. If it's your physical health, don't chase perfection. Walk daily, drink more water, sleep 30 minutes earlier. If it's relationships, send the message you've been postponing. Offer help without expecting applause. Notice this. Anselmo didn't wait to feel confident before acting. He acted, and confidence followed. That order matters. Waiting for certainty often becomes an elegant excuse for delay. Life rewards movement, not intention. And the longer you practice acting with integrity, especially when no one is watching, the more your identity shifts. You stop asking, "Is this worth it?" and start asking, "Is this who I want to become?" Another question, perhaps the most important one. If someone were observing your daily routine the way Doña Rosario observed Anselmo, what would they recognize in you? Consistency, avoidance, quiet courage, or quiet resignation? Recognition, after all, doesn't start with others. It starts with being able to respect your own choices at the end of the day. And here's the final truth this story leaves us with. Dignity compounds. Compassion compounds. Small right decisions, repeated long enough, always change the equation, even if the timeline doesn't match your impatience. The world may notice late. That's normal. What matters is that reality eventually aligns with truth. If this story challenged you, encouraged you, or made you reflect, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you stay connected to messages that go deeper than surface motivation. Like this video, it helps this work reach people who might be standing at their own crossroads, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that what looks small today may carry tomorrow's breakthrough. So now, the question is yours to answer. What will you choose to care for, starting today?